Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I keep getting my name wrong today. I can't say my own name. I don't know what's going on.
Okay, this is take two now.
Take two. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Ben Robbins from the Lost World of Movie Props, and I'm here today with Tim Rose. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing very good, thank you.
You had a very busy day today?
It has. It's been worth coming.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you've had a lot of people at your tables there. I saw them queuing up, and yeah, you've got a lot of fan interaction as well at your table.
Oh, well, you see, when you see the queuing up, it's just because I talk too much. And the people, all they want is the autograph, but they have to listen to all my old war stories before they can get it. So,
Awesome. Well, that's what I want to hear. I want to hear some of your stories today.
Oh, okay, right.
I'd love to talk to you about Howard the Duck. I'm a big fan of Howard the Duck. So can you tell us about your role and what you did on there?
Couldn't you have been at the table 15 minutes ago? I told this whole story about that. Right. When I finished doing Jedi, I had certain problems with production,
Yeah,
which I'm not allowed to ever talk about.
of course not.
But it also meant that I wasn't that interested in going back to work for ILM again anytime soon. But over in ILM, unbeknownst to me, they'd been working on the animatronic character for Howard for about 6 months. And with 1 month to go, they still didn't have a duck that worked.
Yeah.
So George Lucas went to Phil Tippett and he says, Phil, what are we going to do here? You know, this guy is sort of like the star of the show and we don't actually have a duck to film on.
Yeah, of course.
And Phil says, well, what you need to get that guy like came in and did Akbar because, you know, he was really good at sorting that out. Well, who was that? Well, that was Tim Rose. Well, where's Tim Rose? Well, he's in England. Well, get him over here now. So they called me up and asked me to come out there. And I immediately contacted the solicitor who had helped me out with my previous problems, who also negotiated contracts for rock and roll bands and things.
Oh, wicked, nice.
And said, would you like to negotiate a contract with ILM? Oh, would I? Yes, you know. So I basically said if they wanted me to come down to California, they would have to give me an upfront payment. And the upfront payment was what it cost me for my solicitor to clear my name.
Oh, really?
So I would be allowed to stay in the UK.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And so he said that to him. They said no, they couldn't do it. And he said, they're not playing ball, forget about it. And I said, well, actually, you don't understand. In the world of animatronics, this guy isn't just one of those cute things that sits on the wall and laughs. This guy is like the leading man of the movie. So
Yeah.
I would really like to do this job. And I said, tell them that I'll come and do it if they buy me a Harley Davidson.
Really nice.
And the solicitor went, are you joking? I don't think so. He said, well, sure, you know, I'll call him up and say it. So he called him up and said it, and they said, oh, yeah, we can do that. We can put it on the props budget.
No, so you got a Harley out of it.
So I got a Harley. George Lucas bought me a Harley Davidson. And what I had forgotten until recently, because I've talked about Howard for years, but I hadn't seen Howard in a lot of years, basically because I had the original one on VHS, but I didn't have a VHS player anymore.
No.
So I went out and I bought the DVD and I put it in. I started watching Howard the Duck again. And in the very beginning, he's on Duck World. The gamma rays hit him. He gets pulled through the thing, falls down to earth, lands in a garbage can. And Leah's there with her manager, and they're having a big argument. And Howard walks over and he sort of intercedes and sorts it all out for him. And then he's left on his own and he wanders up the alleyway.
Yeah, of course.
Well, while we were filming that, what I'd forgotten was I was so proud of the Harley that George Lucas had bought me that as I saw him laying the camera track, I went, if I roll my Harley back there, it'll be in the movie. It'll be in the back of the shot.
Yeah.
And sure enough, as he's walking past, you see it. It's all in the shadows and everything, but you can see the Harley that George bought me in the back of shot as he walks past
That's awesome.
all the stuff up the alley. And I'd forgotten entirely that I'd even done that. So, but I forget a lot of things at my age. So
Of course. So obviously controlling Howard the Duck. So did you do all the facial expressions and when he talked in the mouths? Like, how did you control him, like in that
Yeah,
aspect?
it took 5 of us to keep Howard alive. Um, Sometime, most of the time, it was Ed Gale in the suit, and then he had an animatronic head on.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I operated the mouth and did all the dialogue for him. Steve Sleep did the eyes. He was Bill Baird's son, and I can't remember what his first name is. I told you, I forget things all the time. He did the eyebrows and the other expressions, doing that stuff. But then there was also, as with Akbar, we had built a hand puppet version for the close-ups.
Yeah.
So that one was also done with several performers all working together to create the illusion of life that you see.
So was it quite easy all working together to bring him to life, or did you really have to figure each other's sequences out to put it all together?
Well, always with these things, it kind of starts off where you say, okay, when I say this, I need the eyebrows to do that, and I need the eyes to look at that, and I need the,
Yeah.
But very quickly as you work together, the character takes on its own life. And because you can go off script and start ad-lipping, and the duck will stay alive.
Yeah.
And that's when everybody intuitively understands their bit of this character so much that you can pretty much do anything you want, and he's there. He's just doing what he's supposed to do, So
That's awesome.
and that's when they become magical, even for us. We did the original BBC Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. We made Aslan for the Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. And after we finished filming, we had fallen in love with this character so much. It took 3 of us to operate him. But we'd fallen in love with him so much that they kept asking him to come to charity events and all that. And none of us were getting paid, but we just accepted it because there was another chance to be with Aslan.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, it'll sound stupid, but
No, I completely
he's
get
only
that.
alive when we're together, and we're only together when he's alive. So
Yeah. I mean, you're the heart and soul. That's the thing. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
yeah.
I mean, obviously, I love also animatronics and that because I think CGI is taken over a little bit too much. Because when you get to see how it used to be done, it's so magical because it makes it more real for the audience to see. That's what I
Yeah.
love about Howard the Duck. It wasn't computerized; it was something moving in front of you.
Jim Henson had what he called the magic moment. And that was when you've got good scripts, you've got good sets, you've got good characters, you're trying to shoot the script, but somebody will do something, and that'll spark the other people to try and step up to the plate and match them, and you end up getting on film something that was better than you originally intended to shoot.
Yeah, of course.
The problem with CGI is because it's all done off in the ethosphere someplace, and the people on set are just creating elements. Everything is fixed in post now. Nothing is actually shot and put in the can for a movie. I see the spark happening all the time. You see an actor being a bit cheeky or a bit mischievous and trying to build his part a little bit.
Yeah.
But instead of being allowed to run with it, the director comes over and says, sorry, the character you're talking to has already been drawn. We can't change anything, so you have to do it exactly like this.
Yeah.
So those magic moments, those things that used to happen spontaneously as you were working together, I see them being choked as often as appreciated now.
Yeah, I mean, because they create an actual, because they got something there to work to. They create a bond with it, and they lose focus that someone's controlling and doing the voice. So they make a relationship with the character.
I mean, for me, the Last Jedi.
Yeah, of course, The Last Jedi is amazing.
Akbar gets blown out the window. I only knew that on the day we filmed it because we were only given the page of our script on the day we were filming,
Oh, really?
and only if we had dialogue at the time. So I was kind of hoping after The Force Awakens, I did some nice things for Force Awakens, but they didn't make it in the movie because the movie was too long. So, you know, a lot of it. So I was hoping, oh, come on, Akbar, you know, he was a heritage character.
Yeah, of course.
Can't
yeah.
he just have a little bit of something, a little bit of meat to bring to the show, you know? And when I read he was going out the window, I wanted to go over to the director and say, well, okay, the vacuum of space trying to pull him out, but could he get his arm around the console so he tries to save Leia
Yeah.
as they're all being sucked out, or something
Yeah.
to make Akbar Akbar?
Yeah, of course.
But you couldn't because of the CG.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly.
It all had to happen in the sequence and at that time, and there was no choice. Actually, they didn't do that bit CG. We finished our dialogue. There were 3 calamari, and all 3 of us got replaced by stunt doubles who were put into our costumes, and then they put snatch lines on them, and they did the explosions for real on set.
Oh,
The
wow.
entire
Nice.
unit had to leave because how dangerous this was. And only the camera crew and the stunt guys were allowed to remain on set. And they did physically, they actually did blow them across the set in the explosion.
Awesome.
And then the snatch lines took them from the stage to 70 foot in the air right up to the
70
grid.
foot. That's really high up, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. So
It's
that's
it's not a little 20 foot.
Make
70
sure
foot.
what you had for lunch, you know, because it's going to try and leave on your way up there. And even after it was finished and they lowered them back down, the costumes they were in were so hot the dressers couldn't touch them to get them out of the costumes.
Wow.
So that's how real the death scene was. But nobody ever saw it
No.
because I think when they watched it in rushes, they finally realized, what have we just done to Akbar? we're not going to get people coming to the movie. We're going to be lynched. You know,
So how did you get the role of him? Was it, or did you get to choose him, or was it just an audition you went for to get him?
on the original movie, Return of the Jedi, I had been working with Muppets, and they started doing Fraggle Rock, which was going to film in
Fraggle
Canada.
Rock.
And I went to Jim Henson and I said, Jim, I'd like to be one of the performers in this, mainly because the performers got paid more than the technicians. But he said, no, he felt my real contribution to the company was the animatronic stuff. And at the time, I thought he was telling me it's because I wasn't a good enough performer. But then I realized that the stuff that we were creating in the animatronics was what was selling all this.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So you could get somebody to operate it not too difficultly, but finding the people who understood it on a design level, a mechanical level, to actually create this stuff that could come alive
Yeah.
was much harder to find in those days. But I took it as an insult, and I left the company, and I was sitting unemployed, and another friend of mine who'd also left the company was already working at ILM for Phil Tippett. And he was trying to, he'd done a version of Sice Noodles that was just a marionette. But she was 5 foot tall and weighed 80 pounds, and he lost his balance on the scaffold and fell off and broke his arm.
Wow. Awesome.
So he called me up and he said, I can't do the movie. If you can get out here, you can do the movie.
Yeah.
So I flew out to California, did my audition. They said, yes, I could take his place and work on it. So I started building the alien characters. And at that point, I was just like looking and said, so who's the red guy down there? And Phil says, oh, he's another extra who appears later in the movie. I said, well, does he appear at the same time as Salacious Crumb and Sice Noodles? And he said, no, it's a whole different part of the universe there. I said, well, can I do him too?
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, you can do him if you want to. And that was the sum total of my audition for Admiral Akbar.
Nice. It's so
I
simple.
asked if I could do him, and they said yes.
Yeah, that's amazing. The fact that they just thought, yeah, actually, no, just go for it. Yeah, and take charge. That was brilliant. Like, yeah.
Well, George Lucas and Jim Henson were good friends, but also they were effectively kind of in competition with each other. And
Like frenemies, as they say.
yeah, frenemies of in the world of sci-fi fantasy creation on film.
Yeah.
So because they knew that I had worked for Jim Henson for so long, they were pretty sure
Yeah, they had faith and trust
that I was
in you.
bringing stuff to the plate that they would be happy with. Yes.
They kind of laugh like we sort of snatched you up a little bit and taken you to the dark side with them sort of thing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No, I was one of the good guys. Akbar
of
was,
course, yeah,
he
yeah.
was a rebel. He wasn't.
So you just here today, or are you doing both days?
Just today.
Just today, yeah, awesome. So have you missed the hot weather? Has it been hot in the hall?
No. We stayed and ate our lunch in there because we heard it was much warmer out here when the sun was on the roof and everything. So.
Bit more, but you got a massive plate of fish and chips. I walked past you
Oh.
guys and I thought, what is that? It wasn't even like little, it was huge.
Yeah, I don't like eating at my signing table because somebody comes for a picture and you got grease up to your elbows and yeah, okay, I'll be right with you.
Awesome, well,
It ruins the illusion.
the illusion. Awesome, Tim. Well, that was wonderful. It's just a quick little chat, obviously, to see how your day's been going. And I really appreciate you talking to me. And thank you so much, Tim. That's been brilliant.
I hope you enjoyed the old war stories. Yes.
Definitely. I love the old war stories. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.